And Amanda, you instead of roll call, I think you've got a quorum. Is that correct? So
yes, sir.
Having seen that, we'll move forward. If anytime we have a motion or a second, if you could say your name when you make the motion in the second, so we can record that as well, we would appreciate that. We'll get started here. Number 2 on the agenda is the April 2021 meeting minutes. I'm hoping that everybody read those. Do we have a motion to accept these?
Barry.
We have a motion from Mayor Armstrong. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Robin Bolte.
Thank you, Robin. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, just raise your hand or say aye, just so we can see it. Thank you. That passes. Moving on, Transportation Policy Committee report. Amanda, you are up.
Thank you, sir. The policy committee met on April 22nd via Zoom webinar, and the committee approved a resolution reaffirming its support of KYTC and NDOT's statewide performance targets. So everything outside of those regionally specific targets. They also approved 8 cost increases for projects with their dedicated funds. All those were in Kentucky, and that was in line with the recommendation of this group. TPC also approved the staff and TTCC recommendation for our CRSA funds. And you'll recall that we were proposing a allocation formula that was based on 50% on the sponsor's population and 50% on how much each sponsor had programmed between 21 and 25 in the tip. TPC also approved KIPTA's fiscal year 22 Unified Planning Work Program for our MPO operations for that year. Also finalized, TPC finalized.
Are you mute? Yeah, right now.
TPC also finalized the MPO's 49 project sponsorships for KYTC's current round of shift, again, accepting the recommendation of this group. And you can always, if anybody needs those sponsorships, you can always find them on kiptatransportation.org. We've got a shift website there. And then last, administrative modification 16 was presented as information only with minor changes to 8 projects. That concludes my report. I'd be glad to take any questions.
Any questions for Amanda? Hearing none. Thank you, Amanda. We'll move on to the public comment period. Greg Burris. Greg, is there anybody that is wanting to make public comment?
No comments received in the chat. We did not receive any via email before the meeting.
Okay, great. We'll move on then. We've got Nick up with the cost increases for the projects using MPO dedicated funds. Nick, you're up.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and share my screen. There we go. All right, yeah, this is a really quick item. Obviously, last month I came to you all to ask for recommendations on the cost increases that Amanda had just mentioned that we received from Kentucky project sponsors. We also did our normal kind of review of how the different MPO dedicated programs, they're kind of standing in terms of obligations to date. And 2 things that one thing that we were working on over the last month was we had some cost increase funding available for Indiana project sponsors in fiscal year 2022. Again, their fiscal year 2022 starts in a couple months. So we wanted to get this worked out before the fiscal year began. The original requests were for more than we had available. The 2 entities kind of agreed to split the difference on what was available. And so you can see here that we'll be adding $198,300 for Clarksville and Jeffersonville's multimodal project under I-65. They needed some additional monies for new elements of the project that have to be required as part of the railroad safety improvements over there because they're adding pedestrian facilities. And then the other $198,300 went to New Albany's East Main Street project for the 2022 construction. So we got that worked out since the last TTCC meeting. So we're bringing this to you. And we also received a request for a cost increase on the design phase of Mount Washington's historic multi-use trail segment. This project started as a bike ped project. We did add some components of it through the last call for projects to address congestion issues there at Landis Lane. Originally, it was thought that maybe a signalized intersection would be best, and the city and KYTC have kind of agreed that to take a look at doing a roundabout instead. So that's what these increased design funds would be for. I can answer any questions anyone has. We have plenty of cost increases still available in Kentucky. This would take care of all of the available funding in Indiana that we know of at this point.
Yeah,
Any questions or comments?
the cooler.
Any questions for Nick?
Okay, no problem.
Hearing none, we need a motion to take action on these cost increases. Is there a motion?
So moved, Jim Urban.
Thank you, Jim. Is there a second?
I'll second Brittany Montgomery.
Thank you, Brittany. We've got a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
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 A lot of ayes, no opposed, no nays, so that passes. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you all.
We will move on. Item number 7, Connecting Kentuckiana, the red flag inventory. Michaela Gary, welcome. It's your first go around, so you are up.
Great, thank you. If you don't mind, Nick, I'm going to actually share my screen as well. Right. Are you guys able to see that map?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so we've been working on updating the red flag inventory tool over the past several months as part of our MTP update. Our intention is for this tool to be used in the project development process to help identify sensitive areas that could impact the cost, design, or timeline of a project. As we were going through this update, we looked at neighboring MPOs and INDOT's guidance and templates that they put out to try and determine what data layers we previously used that we want to continue to include, or ones that need to be updated. Our ultimate goal of this update was to try and make the tool more user-friendly and accessible. So our GIS department did a great job of creating this new interactive map that we're able to use. So I'm just going to go through a quick example of how this tool can be used, and hopefully we'll give you guys a sense of what we're trying to accomplish with this. So as part of this update, we decided to break out our data layers into 6 different categories to try and make it more user-friendly and easy, more navigable. But our 6 categories are infrastructure, sites, water resources, mining and minerals, hazardous material, and environmental. So for this example, say you were looking to do a project on Lewis and Clark Parkway, you could click on one of the categories down here and choose one of the layers. You also can choose to turn all the data layers on here. I'm not going to do that right now just to try and keep it simple for you guys, but say you're interested if there were any brownfield sites along the roadway. You can see in the legend what the icons mean as you turn them on, but you're also able to click on one of the icons and just get a little bit more information. You can see the ID and site name here. So it's one example. Say you're also interested in whether there are underground tanks along the roadway. Again, you can just turn on that data layer, click on the icon, and get a little bit more information on it. One last example, I use a different category, say water resources. And you are interested in whether there are floodplains along the roadway. You can go ahead, turn that data layer on, minimize it so you guys can see here. So you can see that this corridor is within a floodplain. The orange here represents a 500-year flood. The blue represents the 100-year flood. So again, you can just click on it and get a little bit more information. So really the idea of this is as you're going through the project development phase, you're able to go to that and just try and get a little bit more information. We're hoping it will help inform sponsors because this could have impacts on, budget, timeline, design of a project, etc. So we're just hoping it will provide little bit more information and overall view when sponsors are looking at a specific project area. But this tool is available on the KIPTA website now. So you're able to access it through our transportation planning portal. I also can send out an email in the coming days with the link. I would encourage you just to take a few minutes to look at it and see how it may help you with whatever you're working on. It is available in all 5 counties. I know you used an example in Indiana, but it is region-wide, and I am working on updating the data dictionary. So that will be housed on this page on that right there. Sorry, my Zoom's getting in the way, but it will be housed on this page. So look for that hopefully by the end of the month. That'll just give you a little bit more background on some of the data layers and information on that. So with that, if you guys have any questions for me.
Michaela, I've got just a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
You talked about updating the legend, I guess, is what you're talking about. However, how updated is like by county the information that they're showing here? Because this is excellent. But is it fairly well updated, or are you in the process of updating that? And if you are, what's kind of the strategic plan on how you update this?
We just update them as data layers become available. Adam might be able to give more insight on that, but GIS really did quite a bit of work on this. I thought they did a great job. But yeah, any updates for data layers that we're using that are available, we did update prior to putting back out online. So we had taken it down for a few months. So essentially, hopefully as it comes available, we'll try and keep it up to date.
Okay, it's a great tool.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Michaela? All right, and we don't need action on this, do we? No action to be taken.
No action needed.
Great, thank you. All right, Nick, you are up with the CRSA funding.
Appreciate it, Keith. Yep, it is the CRSA. I think folks are trying to call it the CRSA funds or CRSA Act, I guess. But can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Right on. So yeah, this is kind of the part 2 of kind of the formal processes of getting these CRSA funds or COVID stimulus funds programmed in our TIP. So quick little background here for those who may have missed last month's meeting. So the CRSA Act was signed into law back in December of 2020. As part of it, there's various programs and funding sources included. One of them is the Highway Infrastructure Program. This is not a new program. I believe it came into the fold about 3 or 4 years ago when the FAST Act, the current Transportation Authorization Bill, was approved. And essentially, it just provides some additional funding. Project eligibility is almost the same as the STBG, the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. Some call it SLO in Kentucky. Essentially, anything that's eligible under that program is also eligible, with the exception of programs and planning studies. So they really want this funds, as the name implies, to be used for actual infrastructure uses. There was no requirement from the federal government to provide a match. Typically, obviously, there's a 20% match for most transportation programs. However, states could choose to require their sponsors to provide a 20% match. NDOT did that. They are requiring a 20% match, while KYTC in the state of Kentucky did not. A key point here is that these funds must be obligated, meaning authorized by federal highways for the particular phase of a project they're going to be used for, no later than fiscal year 2024, which is September 30, 2024. However, KIPTA, we, as part of the kind of policy or whatnot that the TTCC approved last month, we are requiring sponsors to obligate these on or before fiscal year 2023, which would be September 30th, with an exception for Indiana project sponsors because of the limited projects that some sponsors have. There was one case where a sponsor is going to use them for a fiscal year 2024 phase. And I'll talk about that a little more. Last month, April 22nd, TPC did approve the proposed distribution formula. Amanda mentioned that was 50% based on population and 50% based on the amount programmed between fiscal year 21 and 25. The amount of funding that's available was about $1.2 million in Indiana and about $7.9 million in Kentucky. After approval from TPC last month, staff followed up, worked with the sponsors to identify those specific projects that they wanted to use those funds for. Obviously in Indiana, they're not able to fully fund projects typically, so they overmatch. So their funds were used to, were added essentially to their existing costs, while in Kentucky, we're able to fully fund, I would say 99% of the projects that are proposed. And so those funds are being used to supplant existing STBG or TA funds, which means those funds will come back to the region. So there's a little net gain there for the region as well for the next call for projects. So what did sponsors tell us they'd like to spend the funds on? We've got the breakdown here for Indiana. In Clark County, they're choosing to use it on the fiscal year 2022 right-of-way for the CR 403 and Stacy Road intersection improvements. Clarksville is planning to use it for that fiscal year 2024 construction of Riverside Drive. While there is some risk to the region and possibly losing these funds if they aren't authorized by the end of fiscal year 24, we're pretty confident, and based on the information provided from Clarksville, they're going to try to have an early letting date in fiscal year 2024, which gives us some time if something happens to be able to move that $248,000 to another project if we have to. Floyd County is splitting the funds between the Farnsley Knob Road Guardrail Project and replacement of Bridge 51. Those are both construction phases. Jeffersonville is applying their portion to the Jeffersonville-Clarksville multimodal connections. The 2022 construction, that is for those railroad improvements. I believe the actual construction of the facilities is scheduled for 2024, I believe. If not 2023, one of those 2 years. And then New Albany is planning to use them again on that East Main Street project for 2022 construction. And one clarification I wanted to make: in the handout that was sent out, New Albany had $329,759. There was a rounding issue, so we reduced that after talking with them by $1 to make sure we were under the total amount that we were awarded or allocated by the state of Indiana. Any questions on Indiana projects, project sponsors? Okay, moving on to Kentucky. Bullitt County, the plan is to use those for the design phase, fiscal year 2021 design phase of Kentucky 4. That is a new project that was awarded funds last year by the TPC members. Jeffersontown is using it for fiscal year 2021 construction of the Waterson Trail Phase 1. Louisville Metro is applying it to the construction of River Road. Middletown Weatherby Avenue, that's a sidewalk improvement project. Mount Washington, again, that's the same project that we mentioned earlier with the cost increase. So they're hoping to go to construction next year and use these funds as part of that. And then Oldham County broke it out 2 ways: construction for Buckner Connector and right-of-way for the bike and ped trail at Old LaGrange Road. And then finally, University of Louisville is using them for the campus improvement projects for the design phase, where they're trying to make a little bit more of a pedestrian-friendly environment over there on 3rd and 4th Streets in the University of Louisville campus. One thing that I wanted to mention that we've talked about with the Kentucky project sponsors, obviously there's always a 10% set aside for oversight. And we have confirmed, there was some concern about this, whether these CRSA funds would be used to pay for KYTC oversight. And KYTC program management did confirm that these funds will not be used for oversight. They will be used for the actual project costs. So if anyone has any questions, I sent an email out to any sponsors in Kentucky that had projects impacted here, just to make sure we're all on the same page. I think that covers everything. Anybody have questions about the the Kentucky projects and/or anything in my presentation?
Hey, Nick, this is Tom Hall with KYTC District 5. Can you send that guidance that you sent to the sponsors to, me and Tracy Lovell at the district office? We're responsible for setting up those agreements, and we have to understand how those funds will be used and what commitments are made when we sort of shepherd them through the process and also pay the reimbursements. Thank you.
Absolutely. No problem. We'll send that right away, Tom. Any other?
Also, Nick, if you could send those to central office as well. This is Thomas Witt. I'd
Sure.
be to see those. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll send one email out to the group. You bet. Any other questions or concerns? All right. The action that is requested is for TTCC to recommend TPC approval of the CRSA NPO funding awards.
All right, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion, Andy Crouch.
Thank you, Andy. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, Jim Silliman.
Thanks, Jim. So we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Nick.
You bet. Thank you all.
And it looks like, Nick, you're still up with Amendment 3 to Connecting Kentuckiana. You want to come in?
All right. So yeah, we are in the final stretches of the process to basically approve and move forward with Amendment 3 to the Connecting Kentuckiana 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and our fiscal year 2020 to 2025 TIP. Quick kind of highlights of what's been accomplished so far. So in terms of the projects that were included in this amendment, there weren't that many. 6 of them were new projects that were being added. The majority of them being TARC projects. 3 projects were removed. I believe all 3 were TARC projects, and then there was 1 project updated. All of that information was provided in the packet to you all. We also updated the safety measures and targets that TPC approved back in February of 2021 to our performance management plan. In terms of air quality, obviously we have to do air quality conformity because of, I believe it's ozone. We exceed the standard for ozone. So Randy and Andy, along with Craig Butler and his team at APCD, went through the process, found that it does meet the requirements of conformity under the 1997 and 2015 ozone standards, as well as conforming to the state implementation plan and meeting all the requirements of the federal conformity rule. So once we were able to get that kind of confirmed, we moved on to the public comment period. We did not receive any public comments on Amendment 3 about the projects or the measures. We did have 1 attendee at the virtual public meeting held on April 27th. I believe Greg Burris sent kind of a recap of our activities to TPC members last week. And so if I'll take any questions if you have them before moving on to the formal action. All right. So we do have 2 actions on this one. The first would be to approve the, for TTCC, sorry, to recommend TPC approval of Amendment 3 to the Connecting Kentuckiana 2040 MTP. And then afterwards, we can take the amendment to the TIP. So yeah, that's clear as mud, I'm sure. But Keith, are you good?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
We need a motion for action requested for TTCC to recommend the TPC approval of Amendment 3.
I'll make that motion, Chris Hockenberry.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Is there a second?
Second, Matt Meunier.
Thank you, Matt. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Matt. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Hearing none, all in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. All right, we'll take the second phase of this. Actions requested on TTC to recommend to TPC approve. This is blocking me off. Nick, you'll have to help me out.
Yeah, I've got you. Action is requested for TTCC to recommend TPC approval of Amendment 3 to the fiscal year 20 to 25 TIP.
Gotcha. So the first one was for 2040 MPT. This is for the 2025 TIP. And I just made it even more clear, I'm sure, for everybody. So, so we need a motion for this action.
I'll make that motion, Mayor Hockenberry.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a second?
Second, Barry.
Thank you, Mayor. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes as well. Nick, that last part, I think we messed up a little bit, but that's okay. I think we got it. We passed it.
We worked through it.
That's right. I appreciate it. Thank you, Nick.
No problem.
All right, Elizabeth, pull us out of this. You're up next for active transportation plan.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna share some slides really quick. Okay, so I'm here today to update you all on the second meeting of 4 planned meetings for the active transportation plan that kind of merged with, or transformed rather, from the Complete Streets Working Group that was started back in 2020. So we took 3 products to this meeting to update the group. The first of which was a summary of the public survey results. We had presented some preliminary findings, but these were the full, complete version. And really the key takeaway that we wanted people to notice was that safety and protected dedicated infrastructure were kind of the 2 top requests and issues that came out of these survey results. We did, I think, we got more responses from those who already bike or walk in the community rather than kind of the larger population. But it was still really good to hear about what the infrastructure needs are, what people were looking for. And so we're going to take these and we've already used them to draft some goals and objectives, but we will further use them to identify those priorities, the priority corridors, maybe existing projects in the MTP, and kind of those recommendations that are going to come out of this plan. So very good survey results, and with over 500 responses, we're very happy with that response rate and who we heard from. The second product that we took was a draft of goals and vision for the plan. We received some input on these from the working group, and staff is going to review that and send out a final goal and objective list for the group to kind of put their stamp of approval on, and then that will be finalized. And then the third was a list of draft data indicators for propensity or demand analysis. We really wanted input on the data sets that we were proposing to use. Right now we're looking at separate analyses for bike and pedestrian, but we may think about just merging those together if they look like they're the same need, same demand areas. So that was brought up. We are following up on some potential data sources, and then this is going to be the bulk of the work that's going to take place over the summer until the next meeting. And we will present the results at the next meeting, give feedback, and hopefully then start wrapping up the plan after that. And I'd like to say that all these products, once we kind of finalize them a little bit more, will be put on the website for you all to view. So the next step, we'll have meeting number 3, anticipating that in August or September. Again, we're going to present to you that propensity analysis to the working group, the key corridors, the other recommendations, get their feedback, incorporate that into the plan. And then meeting number 4, we're looking at that in October to get kind of that final draft ATP document look from the working group before we come to TTCC and TPC. And then the complete streets discussion will also be in August, starting in August and wrapping up by the end of the year for looking at the policy and what are our goals with that and how it incorporates into the plan. So the schedule has been adjusted to the end of the year. And I just wanted to let everybody know to contact Michaela Gary. I'll be going on leave, maternity leave for the summer here in a couple of weeks, probably through August. So she will be the main point of contact for the plan. And then again, the draft products will be uploaded onto the website as soon as we finalize them for you all and the public to view while we're in process of this plan. So are there any questions?
No questions or comments for Elizabeth? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Elizabeth. There's no action requested on this, so thank you very much.
No action. Thank you.
All right. Amanda, any other business that you know of or anything else to be brought before this body?
No, sir. I would just mention that it does not look like we will have TTCC in June.
Okay. All right. So mark good. Make sure your calendars are updated for that. Any other questions or comments from anybody? Hearing no other business, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And we got a motion. We got a second. We have a second. Oh, we got a second from Matt. Appreciate it. So we got a motion from Mayor Hockenberry. I think I heard him, and then second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you all. We got that one done pretty quick.